when 72-year-old Evelyn Carter was shoved to the ground by police outside her church. They thought she was just another voice they could silence, but her one phone call triggered a storm led by her quiet son, a man with a past no one saw coming. What happens when justice arrives, not with noise, but with unshakable precision? Before we continue, have you subscribed yet? Hit that button for more amazing stories and tell us in the comment where you're watching from. Ma'am, I said back up now.
I'm 72, baby. My knees don't move that fast. Let me just call my son Callum. Callum, it's me.
They shoved her, a 72-year-old church woman, to the ground, and they thought it was over. But then her son showed up, a man with a quiet voice and a dangerous past. And what followed turned the entire city upside down. Evelyn Carter wasn't in a hurry. She had just said her goodbyes to the women's prayer circle at Faith Grove Baptist, the same church she'd been attending every Sunday for over 40 years. Her ride, Miss Dolores Hill, usually gave her a lift home, but today Dolores had to leave early. So Evelyn decided to sit out front for a bit. The Alabama heat still clung to the late September air. She stood on the church steps in her beige hat and a floral print dress, her brown cane in one hand, and her well-worn Bible in the other. She was enjoying the peace when she noticed the flicker of red and blue lights across the chain-link fence. Two police cruisers had pulled over an old Dodge about 40 feet away. Nothing unusual, just another traffic stop until she heard the shouting. "Hands out the window," barked an officer. Not even 5 seconds later, "Get out of the car." Now, the driver, a young black man who looked barely 18, was frozen. His hands trembled through the open window. A few churchgoers had stopped to watch, but no one dared move closer. Evelyn, with the calmness only decades of faith could give, raised her voice just a little.
Y'all be careful now.
That was it. That's all she said. But one of the officers turned toward her. Not the one yelling, the other. Tall, thin, pale face, blank expression. "You need to step back." "Ma'am."
I'm just on the church steps.
Evelyn said gently.
Ain't crossed no lines.
The officer stepped forward. "Back, now."
I'm 72, sweetheart. I don't move that fast,
she said with a polite smile. Then everything happened too fast. He reached out, grabbed her cane.
Child, I said I move.
But the cane was already gone, and so was her balance. She crumpled to the pavement. Her hat tumbled. Her Bible slapped the ground, and her head struck the curb with a sickening crack. Silence. Then someone screamed, "Why'd y'all do that?" She didn't do nothing. A teenager across the street captured it all. 47 seconds of steady footage. No zoom, no blur. Just Evelyn Carter, motionless. A trembling hand, as if her body still wanted to rise. Her voice, low but sharp, broke through the noise.
Let me make one call. Just one.
And they let her. Probably thought it wouldn't matter. No one on that street knew who she was calling. They didn't know about her son. When Callum Carter picked up the phone, he said nothing for 5 seconds. He just stood inside his small house on the outskirts of Temple, Texas, staring out the window. Then he said one word, "All right." By 7:10 p.m., he had packed his duffel to phones, a USB drive, and a sealed folder. No clothes. Callum had returned home from military service a few years back. Quiet, unassuming. Fixed things around the neighborhood. Helped at the local veterans center. What people didn't know was that Callum had served in 12 covert operations across continents. He wasn't just a soldier. He was the shadow they sent when others failed. He had left that life behind for Evelyn. But now the quiet he'd built was behind him. By 11 p.m., he crossed into Mississippi. Just after midnight, he reached Tuscaloosa. At 3 a.m., he walked straight into the hospital, not through the air, but through the loading dock entrance. "Evelyn Carter," he asked the night nurse, stable, room 103, West Wing. He walked in. She was awake, a thick bandage on her temple, IV in her arm, her cane resting beside her.
Hey, baby,
she said, smiling through the ache. "I'm gonna fix this," Callum said.
You sure?
He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." At sunrise, Callum stood at the church parking lot where it happened. He'd already watched the video 6 times. He wasn't looking for justice. He was building a mission. Plan. The pastor, Reverend Elias Monroe, brought him a cup of coffee. "You all right?" he asked. "She said you tried to step in." "I did. They said I'd be arrested for interfering." Callum stared at a crooked utility pole across the street. "You think that camera works?" Reverend Monroe chuckled bitterly. "Only when they want it to." Callum didn't reply. He turned and walked away. At the Birmingham Police Department's South Precinct, Callum asked for the officer in charge of the Detmer incident. "Badge 6543. Officer Detmer. Last night. Faith Grove Baptist." They told him to wait. 10 minutes later, Lieutenant Marcus Green appeared. "I heard about the incident," he said. "No, you didn't," Callum replied. "Your officer left before the ambulance came. No report filed. No body cam uploaded. That's not review. That's a cover-up." Lieutenant Green shifted uncomfortably. Callum handed him a transcript. "That's your officer yanking a cane from a 72-year-old woman. That's your city lying to cover it." Green tried to keep his composure. Callum didn't wait. "One more thing, tell Detmer not to delete anything. If he does, I'll subpoena his cloud." As he walked out, he'd already sent the footage to encrypted drives. 2 lawyers, 1 reporter. This wasn't about vengeance. This was about presence. And the city had no idea what was coming next. Callum returned to the hospital that afternoon. Evelyn was resting, sunlight flickering across the blinds. He sat by her side, phone in hand, already tracing a map through call logs from the officers on scene. One number stood out, texted twice, once to a supervisor, once to an unknown private number. He'd find out who it belonged to soon. A knock came at the door. A woman stepped in, short, sharp eyes, a bun so tight it seemed painful.
"Mr. Carter? Sergeant Renee Mallory, Internal Affairs."
He stood. They shook hands briefly.
"I'm conducting a preliminary review. I just wanted to check on your mother."
"She's sleeping."
"I won't be long. Just want to assure you
"You here for accountability?" Callum cut in.
I'm here to follow procedure."
"Then we're not talking."
"Excuse me?"
"I don't trust your procedure. That same procedure protected Detmer before. I've seen the files." She hesitated.
"There's a way to handle this, Mr. Carter."
"No," he said. Voice even. "There's a way to bury it. That's what you mean." She looked down.
"You're not wrong, but I still have to follow the process."
"You do that," Callum said. "And I'll do what I came here to do." Later that evening, he sat in a corner booth at Miller's Cafe, surrounded by silence and cheap coffee. His laptop was open, not on social media, not on news feeds, but on a personal archive he had built over years. Badges, internal reports, sealed complaints, patterns. He sent an email to 3 newsrooms, 1 local, to national. Subject line, Incident 9.7, Birmingham PD attached. The footage, the transcripts, Detmer's history. He didn't sign his name. Then, he made a call. "Derek," he said when the voice answered. "Still short on pleasantries, I see. You remember Galloway. Photographic memory. I need him. And Terrell, now. Understood. Where? Birmingham. Your mother. She's recovering. All right. We're moving. By midnight." Galloway was on the road from Tallahassee. Terrell from Chattanooga. They weren't active duty anymore, but Callum didn't need soldiers. He needed reach. Galloway arrived first, older now, limping slightly from a bone that never healed right. "Still sharp as ever. You look exactly the same," he said. "You don't," Callum replied. They both chuckled. Terrell rolled in an hour later, gear in tow, 2 laptops, a portable scanner, a Wi-Fi interceptor no bigger than a showbox. "Let's see what these clowns have been hiding," he said. "PD's network's 5 blocks north," Callum pointed. "Keep it clean. Passive only. Copy." Galloway added, "Once we ID the chain of command, we push quietly." "Get him talking." "I've already started," Callum said. "Footage is out. Public's reacting but slow. They always test the waters first," Galloway said, "till it hits the right nerve." While they worked, Evelyn sat up in her hospital bed, watching the news. Nothing had broken yet, but she knew it was coming. She saw it in her son's eyes. At 10:45 p.m., they found something. Internal messages. Flagged as confidential priority from the precinct's deputy chief. Do not share body cam. Do not comment publicly. Narrative will be handled. Galloway sat back, disgusted. They're circling wagons. Then we burn the wagons, Callum said. They built a chain of evidence, not theories, but records. Clerks who altered timestamps. A medic who omitted head trauma from Evelyn's ER file. It was all there. Callum sent the full chain to an old contact in DC, a journalist who owed him a favor. No sugarcoating, just the truth. For minutes later, the reply, I'm on the 6 a.m. flight. The next morning, the posters appeared across Birmingham, black and white prints with Evelyn's photo on the ground and the words, Ask Birmingham PD why this woman is in the hospital. Justice for Evelyn. They were everywhere. Bus stops, storefronts, car windshields. The police department said nothing, but the silence made people pay attention. Reporters started calling. Leaders asked questions. And then it cracked just a little. A secure tip came in. Detmer's original report, supposedly never filed. It landed in Galloway's inbox. It claimed Evelyn had been verbally aggressive, refused lawful instruction, and initiated physical interference. She's 5'2" and 72. Terrell scoffed. Her interference was standing still with a cane. Callum said nothing. He just stared at the document. Then he called a nurse, Miss Wanda. This is Callum Carter. You remember how my mother was when she came in?
Oh, baby. Yes, scared half to death.
Was she aggressive?
No, Lord, no. She was crying for you.
Could you say that on record? She paused.
You won't get me in trouble.
I'll get the people who hurt her in trouble. I just need your voice. Another pause. Then.
Okay, baby. I'll say it.
By evening, Callum had audio from Wanda, 3 eyewitness affidavits, and proof Detmer drew his baton before Evelyn ever spoke. Outside the precinct, a crowd had gathered. Not loud, just holding signs. Many held canes. That night, local news picked up the story. Then Reddit. Then legal blogs. More anonymous tips rolled in. Body cam footage existed. The department was hiding it. Then came M, a woman who once lived with a patrol sergeant. She still had his SINS tablet. It contained the raw footage. No edits. No excuses. Just the truth. She met Terrell in a park. Handed over the tablet in a shopping bag.
Tell that woman, I'm sorry no one stepped in.
You just did. They watched the video that night. Twice. Then Callum uploaded it and sent it to 6 journalists. By morning, it had over 300,000 views. And now, the department couldn't hide. At 8 a.m., Callum walked into the precinct with a hard drive and a folder. I need to speak to the chief. He's not in, Lieutenant Green said. Then you're him today. We're reviewing. I have raw footage, eyewitness statements, and a federal lawyer who's ready to go scorched earth if one more lie comes out of this building. They watched the video in a small room. Silence filled the space as Evelyn's body hit the curb again on screen. No resistance. No shouting. Just a woman trying to stand. When it ended, Callum leaned forward. Your officer lied. Your department covered it. I want Detmer suspended. I want a public apology. I want the body cam released. I want every use of force case from the last 3 years reopened.
That's not how this works,
said the PR officer. That's how it's going to work, Callum said. Green didn't argue. You'll get your apology, he said. Detmer suspended. The rest I need time. You have 24 hours. That night, Detmer stood in Evelyn's hospital room and read from a script. I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter. It wasn't my intention. She stared at him for a long time.
You didn't mean to hurt me,
she said.
but you still did.
He looked away. She didn't, because she wasn't afraid, and neither was her son. The next day's headlines read, Officer suspended after elderly woman injured in stop. But the real work had just begun. Callum brought a full dossier to City Hall, proof of 5 buried cases, same precinct, same tactics. Councilwoman Eliza Monroe let him speak. This isn't about one cop, he said. It's a culture, and if you don't investigate, we will. Outside, people gathered again, some with candles, some with photos of their own mothers. And Evelyn was there too, leaning on her cane, wrapped in a shawl.
I'm not the first,
She said.
but maybe I can help be the last.
3 officers were placed on leave. The chief resigned. The system hadn't changed, but it had been forced to look at itself. A few weeks later, Evelyn left the hospital. No cameras, no applause, just her cane tapping softly against the concrete, her son at her side.
Help me up.
She said. He did. Not as a soldier, just as her son. Somewhere down the line, maybe people forgot her name. Maybe the posters faded. But not everyone forgot, because Evelyn Carter wasn't just a victim. She was a turning point, and Callum Carter, he wasn't trying to be loud. He was trying to make sure. Silence never won again.